I got a question for Bill.
Okay, go ahead.
How would he respond to or show those who might be detractors or naysayers about his theories actually being applicable or working in court, maybe showing a win? What's he doing, or what's his purpose with his theories? So he just want to create a record for himself, or is it actually having results?
Well, if you go on the website and you follow all the instructions, you'll eventually bump into the Aurora case, where this was a Filipino who acquired U.S. citizenship by joining the Army. And then she had a driver's license, and she had Social Security number, and she filed taxes, and she had business licenses. And then one day, when she was trying to apply the Uniform Commercial Code, they arrested her and charged her with 4 felonies. Okay? And so while she was in jail, she made a counterclaim. She sued 4 judges, 6 prosecutors, 5 public defenders, several cops, a couple of banks, and so forth. She had 22 defendants in all, and she all did it from her status as one of the people of the state of California.
What did she sue for? What was the charge?
Well, they were saying that she was trying to defraud the banks. She was trying to, so whatever it was, she was trying to apply the UCC. She was trying to do it legally, but she dealt with a lot of ignorance, and they misinterpreted what she was doing. She gave instructions exactly to she was trying to make some purchases. She gave instructions on what to do, and they did not follow the instructions, but instead made a direct call to the bank. Yeah, 4 automobiles, so 4 felonies, okay?
Oh, yeah, I've read that.
And so...
Okay.
Did you read that case?
Yeah, but it was very difficult for me because I'm not a scholar. It's hard to understand what's going on.
Well, okay. Well, you cannot read the case and understand it without first going through the preparatory education that's at 1215.org. So I tell people, look, don't look at the example. Go to 1215.org and click on Start Here, follow the instruction, and you will get to that case when you've been given the knowledge. So if you want to call that
thank you, Bill. Thank you,
could. So, but the thing is that here she had all the attributes of a citizen, yet when push came to shove and she had to go to court, she asserted her sovereignty. And when the judge issued any kind of order, she would issue an order rescinding it. And she did that about 7 or 8 times. And each time, excepting for the first time, each time she found the judge in contempt and fined him, which of course he didn't pay. So, but he was a judge that was really a loose cannon, and he was the god in his courtroom. So she just went ahead and built a record against him so that anybody looking into the public record could see what a jerk this judge was. But her finale is that she issued a bench warrant for his arrest. And now what happened was that put it in the hands of the sheriff. And the judge had no control over the sheriff. He actually might have ended up in jail. But instead, what he did was he turned around and he made an offer to her that if she would plead guilty to a misdemeanor for passing a bad check, he would give her credit for time served, dismiss the, credit for time served, no fine, no probation, immediate release, and dismiss the felony. All of a sudden, he figured out how to dismiss those 4 felonies because he issued a bench warrant for his arrest. Now, he never got arrested, but then on the other hand, there wasn't any need to. He turned into a nice guy, one of the nicest judges I've ever met at that point.
So she was successful.
So the power, the power was there. But sometimes you meet, this judge really was out of control. We had a 70-odd-year-old lady arthritis, probably weighed 100 pounds, served the judge with a legal paper. And he sicked his marshals on her. 3 marshals beat the crap out of her. She was all black and blue, and he ordered her in jail for 5 days.
Oh my God!
And the interesting, and this was for contempt of court, right? The interesting thing is that court was not in session when all that happened. So how can it be contempt of court?
Wow.
He was being served individually because he was a defendant in the case. See? So this is the kind of man we were dealing with in Torrance, California. So the power's there. I'll tell you another incident. There was a guy that he sued a bunch of people in federal court, and they all defaulted. So then one day he called me, and he was desperate because in a few days there was going to be a preliminary hearing, a pretrial hearing. And he didn't know what to do. And I said, well, you shouldn't have that because you have the final judgment, so there shouldn't be any such thing. Well, the judge had put an order in. So we put together a writ of error and ordered the hearing off calendar. And we also ordered the judge to never again file any orders in this court without permission of the court. So you never want to shut anybody completely off. So we said, just don't do it without permission of the court. So he would have to go to the court to get permission, see? So that took care of that hearing. Then almost a month later, he calls me up, and he's desperate because in 2 days, there's another pretrial hearing. And I said, well, that can't be. We ordered it off calendar. He says, well, it did. It's there. So as I talked to the guy, and what I found out was that, yes, indeed, the judge obeyed the order. He did not file the order in the court. What he did is he typed up the order, and then he put a cover letter on it, and he mailed the cover letter and the order to the sovereign of the court. And in his cover letter, he instructed the sovereign to take this order down to the clerk and file it. And he did it. So the order for the hearing got filed by order of the sovereign instead of by the judge. So the judge was off the hook.
Huh.
Well, once I found out what had happened, I said, well, that's easy. That's an error on the part of the court. So all we did was issue another writ of error, taking that off calendar. And that took care of it. But see, it's very real what this stuff is, but they will test your knowledge. They will ignore you, and you must enforce it. So the pattern that I follow is the first time that they misbehave, I will issue a writ of error correcting it. Then if they do it a second time, I'll issue another writ of error correcting that, and then I will issue a contempt order, and I will fine the individual $1 payable to the treasury of the jurisdiction, whether it's a state or the federal government, because it's not the money. We don't want to confuse the issue here. And so if they do it again, then I'll raise the fine. Now in California, I think the maximum fine for contempt of court is $500. But in federal courts, I think the maximum is $10,000. But whatever, this is the pattern I follow. And then after a half dozen contempts, if they really are a hard case, then that calls for issuing a bench warrant for the arrest of the judge. And when Aurora Ticho issued her bench warrant, it was a very soft bench warrant. In other words, the sheriff was instructed to go to the judge and elicit from the judge a promise that henceforth he would obey the court orders. And if he refused to promise, whether it was oral or in writing, if he refused to promise, then the sheriff was to take him into custody and hold him until he does promise. Okay? So that way the judge had an out. And when I go to court, by the way, I never, if at all possible, I always try to avoid embarrassing the judge before his peers. You know, I'm not there in a contest of wills. I'm here to assert the law. And so the way I assert it is the judge does and says whatever he's going to do and say. What I'll do is I'll say, I object. And then he typically will say, well, why do you object? And because I'm the plaintiff, you know, the sovereign plaintiff, I will tell him that it's not my wish. And then he'll say, well, if that's the best you can do, you're overruled. And then I'll say, well, for the record, I do object. And then he'll say, okay, it's noted. And that's all you have to do. And you move on from there. But when I leave the court, I beeline it to my typewriter or computer, and I create a writ of error. And in my writ of error, I reverse everything he did. So in the courtroom, it looks like he won. But when you read the record, you can see he lost. Because I fix things with writs of error. There are two purposes for a writ of error. One of them, I don't remember what it is because I never use it. But the other one, the purpose of it is to correct the errors made by the personnel in the court. Well, the judge is part of the personnel. Now, to understand what a judge is, think of it this way. If you were the owner of a business, you set the rules in your business. You do whatever you're going to do in your business. But your business would grow, and sometimes it grows to the point where you have to hire a manager. And so the manager, his authority is whatever you grant to him. He can do anything you tell him he can do. So, but as the owner, you can step in any time and correct him if the manager makes a mistake. Well, the judge is like the manager. You are the creator of the court. Remember, a court is defined as the person and the suit of the sovereign. See, those are the elements that create a court. A court is not a physical location. A physical location can be called a court, but we're dealing with the philosophy of law. And a court is defined as the person and suit of the sovereign. Together they make an artificial entity. And the sovereign is the owner of the court. The judge is the highest officer of the court. In other words, he's the manager. He can do whatever the court allows him to do. And so you are entitled, as the sovereign of the court, as one of the people of the jurisdiction, you're entitled to correct him when he makes a mistake. And his biggest mistake is issuing an order. It doesn't matter if the order is in my favor or if it's against me. Either way, I will remove it because I don't want him to get the idea that he can somehow issue orders. A court of record, the tribunal is independent of the magistrate, and all judges are magistrates. If you look up Penal Code 808 in the California Penal Code, you'll see it says right there, every single judge and justice all the way up to the Supreme Court of California is a magistrate. And by the way, don't confuse the name Superior Court with the function Superior Court. So in California, the Superior Courts are spelled with a capital S and a capital C, or maybe all caps. But the actual function, they may start off as a court of record, as a Superior Court, but they immediately get converted into inferior courts. And how do you know? It's real simple. Just look at the judge. If he makes a decision, it's an inferior court. Next.